It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Hi. All right, my favorite audio cut of the day.
Yeah.
And I've edited this properly. This is a liberal on TikTok, and this woman looks insane. She really does. Her hair is wild. She's got these huge glasses and this weird smile on her face, and she thinks that she's got it all down here. She's figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a war between the liberals and the conservatives, or excuse me, MAGA and the Democrats, you ready?
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Oh, MAGA, don't you understand? If we have another civil war, all the blue states will control all the fresh water.
I'm sorry.
And I had to edit it there because then she said, you MAGA people have to take, this SH.
Mm-hmm.
You don't take this into consideration.
Yeah.
One of
right.
the first responses was, well, okay, so then she's talking about the Great Lakes. In case everybody doesn't know that. She's talking about the Great Lakes. And it's, bordered by blue states.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't know about Michigan yet, do we then?
I think he won Michigan. Did he not?
But when you she must believe that there are canals that go from the Great Lakes to the southern states or whatever,
or some kind of water pipeline.
Yeah, exactly. which even mention that to anybody up there, and they go crazy. But it's that she actually thinks she has a point. And the best response was, I said, okay, I've got to look at some of the responses to it. Mm-hmm. And one of the first ones was, okay, you have the water, we have the guns, which means we have the water and the guns.
Right. Yeah.
But
I mean,
it's this type of delusional mindset that there is no connecting of the dots. What are you talking about? You've got the water. What? And what does that mean?
Right.
Is any current Republican state, and as we know, it's Wisconsin, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
That can go either way depending on where it goes. But
it,
there is, except for the border states, I don't believe anybody's getting water from the Great Lakes. There's no pipeline going to. Bring that suggestion up, because it's been brought up before.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if we took a pipeline from the Great Lakes, people go crazy when you bring that up. So hasn't been brought up in a while, though.
And it's
then someone pointed out, I go, yeah, but we could also store rain.
Yeah. The states that get water from the Great Lakes are, and this is according to Google AI. I've never actually Googled this.
Oh, good. Neither have I. I don't know. So I know I don't believe there's a pipeline.
Well, clearly, I mean, we start with the reddest state of all, Illinois.
Yeah, right.
Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
Wow, Pennsylvania gets water from Great Lakes? Oh, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
Well, they border.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. Erie.
Right.
Sorry. I had momentary mind blank there for a second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, Michigan and Pennsylvania would be in question. If you're talking MAGA, I say we arm wrestle. I say we thumb wrestle. It's, this whole thing of, I don't know.
And by the way, so you said Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York.
And Illinois.
Why don't I see? Oh, there's Illinois. Okay, I'm sorry. In Illinois.
Yeah.
All have borders with the fresh water from the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Right.
So.
Yep.
As I said, there are no pipelines going anywhere.
No. In Texas, if we need a lake, we'll build it. And we do. And we're still doing it.
Exactly.
About, 30 minutes northwest or northeast of here.
There's just no type
They just built one.
There's no type of critical thinking going on right now at all.
Yeah.
I mean, just zero critical thinking skills right now with this Democratic Party. It's just it's pretty darn funny.
Well, I again, it's this attitude, honestly, that and what you're seeing, I think, to tie everything together this morning, I think this extremism, as it gets greater and greater and more radical, comes from what? The fear that's been driven by the leaders on the left for years, not just about Donald Trump, but anybody on the right. The falsehoods, the lies that you have to use to peddle the fear, to build the fear in the hearts of individuals, which has them become more and more radical. This is who they are. At their core, this is the indoctrination that was so important to them and has been for generations now. And so it's not really a surprise that it would get to this point, because did anyone believe that after 24 they were going to go, oh, okay, well, I guess we were wrong. We'll just change. No. You have to, if you bring a bullhorn today, you better bring a bigger one, and a lot of them tomorrow.
You know, I just saw this article that I had when we started the show, because one of the things you brought up with everything going on, I mean, with the promotion now of the Democratic voter and Democratic politicians. We mentioned Hakeem Jeffries, the leader for the Democrats in the House, won't denounce violence, whether it's against ICE agents or when it came to the Axios column, when he was asked by Wolf Blitzer about the Axios column of 8 out of those 9, 9 out of the 9, but 8 out of the 9 that only would give their opinions on what their constituents tell them if they got anonymity. They're afraid of their own voters now. Their own voters want blood.
Yeah.
And again, that came out in a liberal publication from liberal members of Congress about the voters. They want blood. They believe the job of a Democratic congressperson is to basically assault law enforcement and get arrested for it.
Yep.
So, you were asking the question earlier, where do they go in 2016? Or excuse me, 2016. Where do they go in 2026?
That one almost went right by me.
Oh, I was just wishing I was younger.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you go? And then 2028, and 2028 will be the 10-year anniversary of when I looked at you and said, Democrats have to change. They can't continue going down this insane route. And now they're out and outright promoting violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Towards law enforcement.
Yes.
And saying the reason is because Trump is somehow breaking the law by enforcing the law that was created by the elected representatives of the people of Congress.
Yeah.
And you just say, how do Democrats have any support in the United States right now? How do they have this support? Because they're nuts.
Yep.
Well, you'll love this one. Commie, traitor to our country. Commie, Mayor Mandami update here. Mandami's Democratic Socialist allies. Just stop that. His what you would have to say for him is Mandami's Pinko communist allies, right?
Yeah, if they're sympathizers, yeah.
Yeah, they're sympathizers because Pinko is, again, a sympathizer. You may not necessarily be a communist yourself. I believe you are because Pinko means you sympathize
Right.
being a commie.
You would like to be a commie.
Yeah, you would like to be a commie. You haven't got there yet.
Think Bernie Sanders on his honeymoon.
Yeah, you haven't to reference Scientology, you haven't become commie clear yet.
Right.
But Mamdani's allies may be eyeing primary challenges next year against some congressional Democrats in New York City, including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. So now you've got the socialist Pinko commies versus the commies.
Yeah.
This is what the Democratic Party is becoming. The commies. I never thought I would say that after the Cold War.
Yeah, it's been a while. It has been a while.
I've said commie more in the last couple of weeks than I have in 30 years. And I didn't think the reference would be to people running for elected office in the United States.
Yeah.
But they want to go after, the commies want to go after the leader, one of the leaders of the Democratic Party, the leader in the House for the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
He's not commie enough. Hakeem Jeffries is only a socialist Pinko commie, which again is a step below a commie.
Well, with Mamdani, even if he doesn't make mayor, he's going to run for another office.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind that he will.
But a senior political advisor to Jeffries is promising that anyone who tries to oust the top Democrat in the House in next year's primaries will face a forceful and unrelenting response.
Really? Okay.
Well, let's ask this question. How hard can a socialist Pinko commie go after a commie? We know a commie can go after a socialist Pinko commie because they're saying they will. But is the Democratic Party now, this is the question for any Democrats, are you a socialist Pinko commie or just an outright commie?
Got to pick and choose. I mean, you're going to have to choose one, really. It comes down to defining who you are. Now, has anybody said Democratic Communist yet? They've said Democratic Socialist. Are they defining anyone as a Democratic Communist yet?
I expect that.
I'm waiting for it.
Okay, you asked that on July 10th, 2025. Let's remember that date when you asked it and see when they come out with it. If they do tomorrow, it means the commies are listening to our show. But listen to this.
Okay. The terms, Google AI, the terms democratic communist or democratic communism are not widely used in political science. However, they can refer to two distinct, shut up, AI.
Oh, you just stopped it there, right?
Yeah,
Didn't
shut
go
up,
any-
AI. I don't need any more from you.
Well, listen to this now.
All right.
The Democratic Socialist of America leaders, which, again, if they're supporting Mamdani, they're pure commie. They're not Democrat. They're not even socialist.
They're a Mamdani commie.
They're a Mamdani commie.
Yeah.
They are apparently mulling running primary challenges against Jeffries as well as other House Democrats whose districts are in New York, including Gerald Nadler and Dan Goldman. Goldman is not commie enough for the commies. Goldman.
Well, you could make...
Goldman is too moderate.
Well, I'd say he's helped the Republicans more You know,
Okay, you do have a point.
in the last 18 months or so, he's a GOP sympathizer.
I can't use any more colors because the red state, because red in the United States is different than red for as we used to call the former Soviet Union, which
Right.
Pinko comes from red for communist,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Pinko is not fully red, but you're heading
Right.
there. You're a communist sympathizer,
Right.
which is where Pinko comes from.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that I could use the term Pinko. I don't know the last time I used that.
Yeah.
I had to make sure that everybody knew that it was not any type of.
Well, it's like one
it's-
of those old shirts you get out and it's like, I don't think this fits, and then you put it on, it's like, it fits.
Well, nobody
Still
knows
fits.
that it is not it is not any type of demographic assault or on anyone. I want to make that clear.
Right.
I said yesterday it's not a transphobic or homophobic word.
No.
Right.
No.
It defines your political ideology. Pinko means you're a communist sympathizer.
It also does not have anything to do with the fans of a particular pop singer.
Yes.
Do they call themselves Pinkos? I don't know. I'd have to look. She has her fans, a lot of them.
Well, it would be tough for her to be a Pinko. I just saw the other day she's worth like $250 million.
Oh, she's a true capitalist.
Yes.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Topsoil moisture condition ratings nationwide may seem lower than expected due to continuing heavy rains in the central and eastern U.S.
We saw a bit of net drying across the country in early July,
which USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey points out in the latest USDA topsoil moisture condition report for the period ending July 6th.
Short to very short numbers increasing this week, 3 percentage points to 26%. Surplus topsoil moisture down to 10% from 12% a week ago.
As for what is behind the net drying of topsoils on a national scale,
factors include heavy usage by crops and other vegetation, as well as high evaporation rates and the high angle of the sun. Tough to keep up with moisture in July.
Western topsoil moisture very short to short numbers represent increased drying, particularly in the Pacific Northwest and Northern Plains. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour. I love this story. That came out yesterday from the New York Post. Kamala Harris did an interview last year with an interview on TikTok. I guess it's a regular program that's on TikTok, Subway Takes. It was so bizarre that they both mutually decided not to broadcast it, so it remained hidden. She was so bad, they both said, and in fact, the podcast host said, if I put it out, I will be viewed as being responsible for her downfall. So we went to them and the campaign. Harris didn't want to put it out. They didn't want to put it out. So they didn't put it out. That's how bad she was. Wow. We'll have that coming up.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning, checking out some economic news. This is from the Commerce Department and their analysis. And this came out from the Commerce Department after the first quarter GDP contracted to 0.5%. But this is from the Commerce Department. Again, Trump's Commerce Department. Import surge, which detracts from the GDP numbers as businesses and retailers sought to rush in imported goods ahead of the threatened tariffs. The rise in imports subtracted 5 percentage points from first quarter GDP growth. This was partially counterbalanced by a 3-point contribution from extra business spending on equipment and inventories, which, of course, businesses were doing because they wanted also to beat the tariffs. The more moderate growth in consumer spending in the first quarter indicates that consumers already had begun pulling back somewhat even before the tariffs took effect. The large snowstorms in January and February may have played a role in that, too. First quarter GDP contraction would have been about 0.2 percentage points worse if not for the surge in car buying in March ahead of the April 2nd effective date for the new auto import tariffs. Now for the future, storm clouds will loom over the economy if a trade war is sustained. That would hurt U.S. exports and could extinguish the recent revival in manufacturing. Consumer sentiment has dropped significantly, though much more so among Democrats and independents than among Republicans. The Trump administration has not only been cutting federal employees, but also canceling contracts that sustain government contractors and nonprofits. The ripple effect of canceled contracts beyond government agencies is unknown, but potentially high. Uncertainty is also likely to hurt business spending on equipment and hiring. Consumers have begun to save more, perhaps because they feel insecure about their jobs going forward. Foreign tourism is likely to be down as well, perhaps subtracting 1/10 from GDP growth. And again, the source is the Department of Commerce GDP data. I was reading Kiplinger. My dad used to get that every month. He used to subscribe to Kiplinger letter. But they look at it, and this came from them from about two weeks ago, and they're saying that estimates of second quarter GDP growth to be released on July 30th are running from 3 to 4% at the moment. Now that was 2 weeks ago, and that's when 2 to 3, 4 weeks ago is when the administration was talking about. Remember, 4.6% growth, 4.6% growth, and all we need is 3%, and the big, beautiful bill will be great, we'll have a surplus. And you and I kept saying, where are they getting the 4.6% growth from? I haven't seen that anywhere. And it was the forecast at that time from the Atlanta Fed second quarter GDP growth.
Oh.
All right.
Okay.
So it was a projection. It wasn't actual economic growth at that time. And you notice they haven't been talking about it lately. What they've been highlighting is the amount of money being brought in, by the tariffs, and there hasn't been a drastic increase in inflation.
Right.
But they haven't been talking about GDP growth. And as we've always stated, we said, look, at times you have to use tariffs. We believe when you look at China and their unfair trade practices, you could look at that. There's a lot of discussion on the whole Brazil thing yesterday, where he's putting 50% tariffs on, and the president said yesterday, well, because of their unfair trade policies, the deficit's a problem. Well, we have a surplus with Brazil, not a deficit. We have a trade surplus with them, which is what the president said he wanted with companies or with other countries. And then the other thing he said, they're putting the tariff on because of the presidential candidate who's friendly to the United States, who they've charged with crimes. It's going to be interesting to see where that all goes. But when he came out and said the second thing is because of our, the deficit we have that's being created because of Brazil, we don't have a deficit with Brazil. It's the opposite. It's what the president's promoted all the time that he's wanted. So we'll see if that's clarified in the next couple of days. But now the Atlanta Fed GDP growth is down to 2.6.
Yeah, that's the thing about the GDP Now forecast is that it changes a lot. And it's basically you look at the model and how that forecast comes about and why it changes. It's what you know at the time, at the moment, the snapshot based on the latest update, right? So then there's another snapshot at whatever point the next forecast is issued. And so it changes all the time. And I look at that and say, look, I have to go back on the GDP Now forecast, when they did that revised down to a negative 0.5. I have to go back and see where was it? Where was the GDP Now forecast? It was not good at that point. But I don't think it was.
Oh, weren't they at minus 1.8 or something? Or
I
2
thought
or
it
something
was.
like that,
I thought it was much deeper.
Minus
than
2.4?
the negative 0.5. Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I think the actual result came in better than the Atlanta Fed forecast said at that point.
Especially the first result, and then now the first revision going down to negative 0.5. But again, it's based on data that you really can't make that until you have the updated forecast. And then those revisions, there's a reason we have those revisions along the way.
3 revisions come in after the first one. And they write here, this is from Kiplinger, estimates for the second quarter GDP to be released on July 30th are running from 3 to 4% at the moment. They're not now.
Right.
They're running at anywhere between the 2.1 and 2.6 is where I've seen almost all of them right now. I mean, the last week. These estimates will change as more data comes in, but they indicate that the weak growth of the first quarter will be reversed. However, just as investors shouldn't have been fooled by the decline in the first quarter GDP, they should not be fooled by the strength in the second quarter. Both quarterly numbers have been whipsawed by businesses hurrying to bring in imports before tariffs took effect. A more reasonable view of the current growth is to simply average the two numbers together. And at that point, they had 1.4% growth in the first quarter. If you take now what we have right now, where if you take the median, well, I'll take the high number, which would be the 2.6. If you take the 2.6 with the minus 0.5% in the first quarter, you have just a little bit over 1% growth. And they said growth in the second half of 2025 will likely be tepid at around 1%, so that the full year's growth over the 4 quarters will be 1.2 to 1.4%. The numbers cited in the media for 2025 will be higher at 1.7 to 1.9 because these will be for the 2025 midpoint compared to 2024's midpoint. We expect the moderate growth trend to continue through 2026. So, and when I was looking, what was I was looking at earlier? I was looking at the blue chip. Actually, blue chip economic indicators say 2.1, so it's anywhere between 2.1 or 2.6. I took the high number, 2.6.
Yeah.
So, the predictions are 1% growth, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. As we've said with tariffs, you accentuate the positive is what you do in any economic situation. And so the administration, even though you'll see when they post it, there's a lot of criticism even from conservatives saying, well, that the tariff money's coming from the economy, and going to government.
Right.
If you're promoting the fact that we're gonna be able to get $300 billion, well, that's money taken out of the economy.
Right.
And the importers pay it. And they finally admitted that. I mean, for the longest time, the president was saying that it's the exporter that pays it, and that's not correct. It's the importer that pays it.
Right.
So when you look at it, I mean, that's you're promoting and saying the fact that we're taxing is a great thing and taking money out of the private economy and putting it into the government economy. And so we understand why they're doing it, because it's something that they promoted from the very, very beginning. When you look at inflation, as we have said, when you increase the cost of doing business, and it all depends on whether it's a minimum wage. If you go to $30 in minimum wage, it would be different than if you had a $10 minimum wage.
Yeah.
the effect is proportionate, to the amount of the damage being done by increasing the cost of doing business, however you do it, whether it's regular taxes, whatever. And so, as we've always said, there's one of three things that tariffs affect. You either, in the negative way, the positive way would be the person who you put the tariff in for, like steel companies, can charge higher prices, and therefore they make more of a profit. But the people that buy the steel from them have to pay a higher price. And so one of three things, or a combination of the three, happens. Increased prices, which again is the pressure on inflation, slower growth,
Right. Yeah.
because when things cost more, people end up buying less, and layoffs,
Yeah. Right.
or a combination of all of the above. One can look good,
Well, that's
the
it.
other doesn't look as good,
And you even had the retailers, at the retail level, the big box stores were saying, okay, we can absorb so much. And then at some point, the pricing has to change, and then the consumer has to take on that burden. But in absorbing, if you're talking about remaining competitive, if you're in the retail end, well, what do you look at? Well, you're going to have to cut costs elsewhere, right? If you're looking to protect your margin, especially as a publicly traded company, but every company is looking to protect the margin, then you've got to remain viable and competitive, but you can't do that if you're losing money. So you make cuts elsewhere. So that comes with cutbacks, layoffs, lack of investment. It's an ever fluid situation. But ultimately, as you point out, that money, hundreds of billions of dollars, is coming out of the economy and going to the government. And so that's the concern that conservatives have when it comes to tariffs and a long-term policy, especially if we're talking about coming back. And the president in recent days has been talking more and more about bringing the tariff situation back. He's threatening. It's not just the Brazil thing or the copper thing. He's talking as we're getting into it. And every story, the sentence ends with, based on how the negotiations go, right? And that's what you want. I mean, does he still believe, or is it still the case that you can get our trade partners to the table and get a deal done? Keep in mind, they've been saying they're going to get, so many deals in so many days. Not, what was it, 90 days, 90 deals, or whatever it was? And that's the effort. You get those deals in place. Well, the question is, how much does the market believe? You and I were talking about this the other night off the air. How much does the market believe is a threat in terms of tariffs by the administration? Do they still believe that's a problem? Well, it's not a problem until it goes into effect. Basically, the market is saying, we're not going to do it based on words. We're going to react based on actions. And if the tariffs actually do go into effect, that's when the market will respond. And even then, those tariffs can be rescinded.
And when you look at it, the administration will be judged by the end of the year if they only expect 1.5% economic growth in 2025 compared to, it was 2.8% in 2024.
Right.
That number will be focused on by Democrats if that's the case.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yes.
And at that point, the fact that you brought in hundreds of billions of dollars of tax revenue, the American public, they don't respond to that. And that's the challenge that the administration
especially
has.
Your base.
Yeah. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Light Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Kamala Harris, Eric, gave an interview before the presidential election that was so confusing and weird that she and the host mutually agreed not to air it. He revealed the former Democratic presidential candidate's appearance on Subway Takes, a popular online series hosted by Kareem Rama, where guests admit their favorite hot take was filmed in the summer of 2024, but never saw the light of day. The presenter said her take was so confusing and weird, not good, and so we mutually agreed we should not publish it. Wow. Her take was that it was bad? Oh, yeah, it was really, really, really bad. It didn't make any sense what she was saying. Wow. Wow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.